Hey, crew. Good morning to you. I didn't get to make another YouTube video this week. I have some stuff planned, but I keep getting distracted. A lot of stuff going on, like this little buddy right here. So last week I was sharing with you guys. Ben was hanging out, and he's hanging out with me today. So everyone said we want to see the puppy, and so this is Ben, or not Ben. Sorry, Ben's the other one. This is Bo. We have Bo and Ben now. We got the other dogs. They are hanging out over in their spot. That's Ben over there. But yeah, so today I just wanted to chat with you. My current hyper focus is going and potentially getting diagnosed officially with ADHD as an adult. This is something that I think over time I've learned more and more about, and I continue to think about, and then I will hyper focus and I will go ahead and research and find stuff out, and then I will like neglect going and actually doing it. I think the biggest reason for me right now and why I continue to think about this is that I don't know what it's really going to do for me from a standpoint of talking to my doctor and being like, look, this is something that's been going on. I've put some tools in place to help me because I've needed to, because like my parents didn't really pay attention to it when I was younger. So there was never any like, Mark's not a hyper kid, therefore there's no issue. And I was like, yeah, but I'm really struggling in school. I'm really struggling with like retaining information and with reading and like all this different stuff. Spelling is still an issue. I remember going to like all these like special tutoring classes for spelling issues. I still have them now, and I'm 40 years old. I'm over 40, but let's just say it's 40. So I was thinking a lot about this recently, and I was like, why does bullet journaling work for me so well, right? Like of all the things that I could potentially be doing to help me with focusing and kind of hitting my goals and doing those things, why is bullet journaling the thing? And I've just really been marinating with this idea today. Not just today, I've been marinating with this idea for a while now. Probably for the past 2 weeks I've been really kind of hyper focused in on. I've been watching a lot of talk from different like psychiatrists and things like that on like different things. And I'll be honest with you, one of the things that also prompted this is that when I do my videos, I bite my nails. I've been biting my fingernails since I was probably 7 years old. And I never really knew why. And I just, always do it. And it's something that's kind of been ongoing. And then recently doing all of this different type of research, I come across this body focused repetitive behavior as being something. Hope he doesn't cause any trouble back here. This thing being something that happens. People with ADHD, with stress, anxiety, OCD, other compulsive disorders and stuff like that do that a lot, and people will comment and they'll be like, Mark, I wish you would clean your nails. Like, I can't watch this video because it's so distracting to watch it. And I have, there's a level of kind of like guilt, shame that comes along with that. Like, I'm not trying to gross anybody out. Like I'm just trying to show off pens or stationery or notebooks. And I'm self-conscious of it, but I've also not let it stop me from continuing to make videos and things like that. I try to be mindful of it, but it is just something that I just do subconsciously, right? And then recently, I've just been growing out the beard as well. I've been, kind of just like I always am touching it. My wife is always like, why are you always touching your facial hair? And I was just like, I don't know. And then I started realizing, like, I'm like, not in a bad way, but like pulling them out, like all this different stuff. And this is all a part of like this body focused repetitive behavior. I keep looking over because I had to write it down because I still can't remember it, right? But I'm just one of those things where I feel like now, like, is it going to really make a difference in kind of how I live my life? Shh, guys, chill. It's the problem with having 3 dogs. They get all crazy. So I've been reflecting also on like, okay, I talked to my regular doctor about it, and he basically had said, for the most part, like, we're not going to put you on Adderall or anything like that. You're too old. If you have a stimulant, then there's a chance like it could have negative effects on your heart as you're getting older and all this stuff. And I'm like, great. Like, I finally have the bravery to like talk to somebody about it that's not a peer. And you're basically like, okay, well, what are you doing to help yourself out? I share all about bullet journaling and how I've been utilizing that. I talk about, I have timers all around me all the time, always like trying to use that. I have it on my watch, in between meetings and timing myself so I don't forget to do things. Like, everything is there. And it's one of those things where, I feel like now sometimes we'll be like, oh gosh, I'm so ADHD about whatever, when people really don't have it. And again, we do whatever, we say whatever we want. I say stuff all the time that's like whatnot, like it's just out there. I don't know the right way to like explain it. We just say those things like, oh God, that's so OCD of me. And of course, when you do more research and you realize like OCD specifically and like what that is, you're like, maybe it's just something I do sometimes, right? I was watching a talk yesterday, and there was a psychologist talking about it, where you say like people who lose their keys a lot or misplace things. And it's like, okay, but some people do that all the time. Some people misplace their keys a lot, but it's like, but at what level is that happening all the time, right? Like, I just had that happen to me yesterday. I had it last night. I came home from work. I have a card for one of my coworkers I have to send. I set it on my desk. I was only at my desk and I lost it on my desk. And I'm not going to lie to you. I looked for it for 30 minutes. Like, it just happens. Things disappear. So something I've been looking at recently is like officially getting diagnosed. And a lot of YouTubers, a lot of bullet journalers talk about this topic a lot too. And I would love to hear from you all as well, especially if you are an adult with ADHD. I think so often, especially when I was younger, probably a big reason why it was never really brought up for me was because I didn't have that hyper part of it. So maybe it's ADD versus ADHD. I think depending who you talk to, some ADHD is like the umbrella term and ADD falls under it, or who knows. But the bottom line is that there's definitely something going on. The hyper focusing that I have, the issues I have with kind of comprehension sometimes. I will read several pages of a book and then realize I haven't actually read it. I was looking at the words, but I wasn't comprehending it. And I think that is something that, like, over the years, right, these things kind of have happened. And what I've done is I've essentially put tools in place, whether I knew that I was doing it or not, to help myself. And I think a lot of these are like these cognitive behavior things, at least that I'm learning about and researching about now, is the idea of journaling or writing things down consistently, right? The idea of some meditative practices. I've researched a lot about the importance of like working out and exercise, and how that is something that can like naturally increase the dopamine that's inside of your brain, and making that just kind of more a part of what's going on. It's also a really great excuse for me, I feel like, to like try to work out more, because when I started my workout journal, was that back in August? It's the only thing I thought about for weeks, for months. And then like, a few weeks ago, like, I didn't do it anymore. And I'm trying to get back into it now. But bullet journaling, to get back to like what I was originally talking about here, is like why I think that it's been so helpful for me. I jotted down like a handful of reasons that I really felt like it was helpful. I think for me, the first thing that I get really excited about is that dopamine hit that I'm always searching for, which is weekly bullet journaling. So in the bullet journal method, and if you're unfamiliar with bullet journaling, it's what I use for work. It's a method and a system, both from a reflective standpoint. It also is a system that helps you understand, not understand, but focus on notes and tasks and kind of how you use it. I have a lot of videos on it. I would love you to check those out. I want to work on another one actually in the near future. But the big thing for me are my weekly spreads, which really help me focus in on like my week and what's going to happen within that week and what I need to remember to do. I'm going to crack it open and show y'all again, because I don't have the full setup here just yet to do like the top downs, right? But like, this was my week this week, and having fun with it, right? And I'm writing down the team capacity work, because that's something I have to pay attention to. The tasks, the notes, the things that I have going on. This was last week. It is not as cool or pretty looking as this week is, but I just had to get it done real quick, right? But what I love about this is that every single week for me is new. I'm just going to keep flipping through and showing as I'm talking. This is one of the things that keeps me coming back. Of all of the different techniques and tactics and tools and things that I've used before, what I love about the bullet journal method is this blank notebook more than anything, and that I fill it with whatever I want and whenever I need. And it changes week to week, and it makes me really excited each week to set that up. I don't have any type of anxiety around setting it up. I've accepted this is how it works for me. I love sharing it online, but I do not I do not kind of behold my creativity or my success based off of views or likes or anything else when it comes to how I use my bullet journal. I love those things. I love when other people find it helpful and they like it and they share it, but I do not hold myself as that was successful. Success to me is the fact that I'm using something, I'm remembering what I'm using and how I'm doing it. I'm getting the task done that I need to accomplish. I'm remembering and finding ways to like jot things down and make that happen. That makes me excited and that keeps me held on to it. And that's like one of the big reasons why bullet journal has been an amazing tool for me as I put that in place for myself. The other is I get to use really fun stationery inside of my bullet journal. I've always loved stationery. Even as a kid, I had these weird fun dreams of like one day, working in an office and being surrounded by stationery. I'm gonna move this chair over because I need to make the point that I now work in a space surrounded by cool office supplies and stationery, right? A dream came true for me. But I love this stuff. I love the pens and markers, and I love different types of fountain pens, and I love notebooks. And I've always been a fan of like cool, fun stationery stuff too. It's always just kind of been in my blood. So like that excites me. Obviously, as I go into hyper focuses and these impulsive buys that happen as well with like fountain pens, when I got into using fountain pens, I'm at the point now where I'm looking for like cool new things, right? Hello Tello was my pen for this week. And I got this pen from one of the pen shows that was in DC because it looks very cool. It's small, it's unique. There's something special about this. And it makes me really excited to find it, to purchase it, and then to use it. And I have a large pen collection now because now that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm not just seeking any type of fountain pen. I need to find something special about that pen so that I can purchase it and then I can use it and it'll make me feel excited about writing. The other part, bullet journaling, writing things down have been incredibly helpful for me. Years ago, especially when I started in my professional space, I thought digital was the way for me. So the iPad, doing everything online, no paper. That is the way that I thought I wanted to go because I love that minimalistic kind of tech forward approach to life. I am a new tech adopter. I love it. I'm an early adopter. If I see it, if I can afford it, I've got it. I'm trying it. I'm doing something with it. But bullet journaling has been a fantastic way for me to also just take that step back and realize that writing things down helps me retain information. I was just sharing with my daughter the other day. She's in high school this year, and we were talking about studying now, right? Reading, comprehension. I see a lot of like early issues that I had in her as well. And I was sharing something that I learned in college. This was in college that a professor paid attention enough to be like, I think you might need some help here. It was actually an abnormal psychology class that it happened, so it makes sense. But he was noticing that I was struggling with studying and test taking, and he said, I want you to try this technique and see if it works for you. He's like, I want you to read the chapters of the book or the content that you're reading, and I want you to not highlight anything or write anything down. I just want you to read it. Then I want you to read it a second time, and you're going to take your highlighter. And as you're reading, anything that you think is important, I want you to highlight in your textbook. And this also was, way back when you used to rent your textbooks off of like Egg or whatever, used to buy them. You spend like $400 for a textbook. Crazy town. Probably still that expensive. I don't know. I'm not in school anymore. But I was like, oh gosh, no, I can't resell it. He's like, the most important thing for you is to retain this information and do well. I'm sorry to say, but screw reselling this notebook. Who cares? You need to be able to retain this information. So go back and highlight the important stuff. He's like, then after you do that, I want you to get a notebook and I want you to go back and I want you to write down those highlighted things. And I was like, this is a lot of work. He's like, yes, but this will help you retain that information more. And it was that moment in time for me when I realized, holy crap, this works for me. Writing things down is incredibly powerful for me in helping me remember and retain information. Now, I'm not going to say when I write it down that I always instantly remember it forever and always. Honestly, going back through my bullet journal several times a day, re-looking through my list is helpful for me. I think some people that do daily logging in their bullet journal, rewriting the tasks day after day is another way to be like, don't forget you have to do this. Don't forget you said you were going to get this done. It helps you do that. I wish that someone would have told me that when I was in high school because I struggled so much in high school with a lot of that and studying and test taking. I never did really well to the point that, like, when I took my SATs, that I literally did not great. And I remember going to a college fair, and that was like the first question that they would ask you. They'd say, "Well, how did you do on your SATs?" And I was like, "Oh, I got this." And they were like, "Probably don't want to apply to the school." And that, like, hurt me a lot. I was like, "Okay." And that was said to me by multiple schools. And I was like, "All right." And, like, I was trying to figure out still what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to go into architecture. Design was something I was always interested in, but didn't really think of it as a profession. And then I started to get into radio broadcasting and doing more of that. And met with a school that had an entire program for it because I really thought college wasn't for me because wasn't doing well in school. And um, you know, these recruiters at these schools basically telling me don't don't apply essentially, which made me not feel very smart. Like I really felt like maybe this isn't for me. And went to broadcasting school and did all of that, and then ended up going back to school. And that's again when I met that professor that told me that and really honestly helped me kind of love learning, but because I realized that I honestly could. It was a moment. Like I wish I could go back and find that professor. I really don't remember his name, and just be like, let me tell you that you literally changed my life in the best way with that tip. And then now utilizing those tools right in my day to day and bullet journaling, writing things down and making that happen have been amazing. I think the other thing too, and Ryder Kara talks a lot about why he developed the bullet journal system, right, for his own, learning disabilities and things like that. And I think that early on with bullet journaling, and this is, when I started this 7 years ago, this whole adult ADHD conversation was not even on my radar. I've never really thought about it because, when I was in school, right, the ADHD kids that were on medicine were off the walls, right? They had that hyperactivity part of it, and that was not me. I was talkative and I was outgoing, but I was not hyper. But I didn't realize like the hyperactivity does not mean that you're bouncing off the walls all the time. It manifests right in different ways for people. They don't tell you that in school, right? They just kind of say, "Oh, this is what it is," and also probably wasn't as researched when I was younger too. I feel like it's been a long time now, but the system of bullet journaling works great for me because there's an outline of the system that you can flex on when you need to. We talk about Jess and I talked about it on the podcast, the Planner Pals podcast. If you're not familiar, you got to check it out. It's a fun podcast I do with Jess. We were talking about like the index, right? And how like she doesn't always use it for some of her notebooks because they're in a chronological order. And while mine is as well, I find the index to be incredibly helpful because when I'm trying to find information again, it will get lost in a notebook. I can easily reference that. The future log is something that I'm learning to love more and more now. I was just sharing some photos on Instagram about this. So I have my bullet journal for 2025 that I've set up. And there's a lot of stuff in like November, December that I don't want to say I forgot about, but it wasn't necessarily on my radar around my team. We do an end of year event together. We do end of year planning. We do like a gift exchange, like all of those things that I think most people normally think about. I know that we've done them before, but like I wasn't pre-planning for them. I'm last minute about that. And that doesn't work when you have a team of 13 people that need to, plan an end of year party, do a gift exchange. Oh, and by the way, it's my job, right, to do this as a part of supporting my team. So this is November and December for next year. I've already set those tasks for myself inside of my bullet journal for next year because I knew that I kind of forgot or were delayed on them now. So, like, instead of thinking about it in December, I have them written in my future log up here. And again, this is my version of a future log, which is the calendar plus the space up here for my future log task items because this works for me and my job and what I do. I found that I like a calendar, but I also love a bullet journal, and I don't want two planners right now. But putting them in here has been helpful. Writing them down, remembering they need to happen, literally planning a year in advance, which is something that for me, I was like, who does that? It's not exactly, I don't see it as planning in advance. I just see it as I'm almost noting it here that I have to get that done. And so, like, this system of then utilizing that and then referring back to these pages when the months are about to come up, writing those tasks back down again for that month to know I have to do them, that system works. And then moving into like the daily logging and the weekly logging and however you kind of take things after that. the collection pages in the bullet journal, having these single topic areas that you write down all of your notes in. I had a bad habit before of kind of writing things anywhere, honestly, before I started bullet journaling. And then when I learned about collection pages and I just said, wow, this just makes sense. Let's take an entire topic and dedicate a page to it. Let's write it down inside of inside of my index so that I can find it again. But like this just it's awesome. This is fantastic. This is great. And I'm also able to express my creativity through doing this as well, right? I've always been an artistic person. I, took on a career inside of art and design. And I think that it is something that it's a great way for me to infuse some of that into what I do as well. And I love it so much. I think it makes a lot of sense for that. And I also think the flexibility of the bullet journal is what I really love about it too. And that if I need to change something, I can. I don't get bored with it at all. Anyone who has ADD or ADHD knows that you can be really excited for something for a long time and then suddenly you may just stop. I do this a lot with foods. I do this a lot with activities, video games. For some reason, the bullet journal is the only thing that I've ever been able to stick with for as long as I have. It is insane to me. But I think it's because of all of the things that we've talked about. And the flexibility, like I said, is that one week, maybe not a lot is going on and I don't need as much space. Or some weeks there's a lot going on. I can, design it in different ways that kind of flex and meet my individual needs as I do it. And I absolutely love that. And I think it's a lot of fun. So those are some of the reasons I want to get back into the chat because again, I did a bad job. I was kind of on this focus, and I didn't want to stop and go as I went through. I wanted to get those ideas out before I start rambling about other things. But I want to go through just some of the chat things. I know that y'all know what's up. So a lot of good mornings. We have some hellos to Bo. So I was glad to give him a show. I don't know where he is now. He's probably sleeping, hopefully. We had a few people. I just want to go through the chat a little bit. I had my diagnosis for a year now. Getting the diagnosis made me feel less like an imposter. It is nice. Fire Soul, thank you for that. I think that is a part of what I want to accomplish is to stop saying I think I have or it's undiagnosed because at this point I feel like I know, right? When you read the things about like all of the habits, I can go back to when I was younger and pull those things out. It's not that all of a sudden these are happening or I'm slightly unfocused now. It's been my entire life. So the school issues, the nail biting, cheek chewing, pulling hair out, doing weird stuff like that, hyper focusing on specific things. There's a lot that kind of comes into that. And I do feel like that might be the right thing. And a few years ago, I was on this path as I started to learn more about it. And I went as far as to finding a person, a psychiatrist to go to that specializes in this. And then I just never did anything with it. And so now I'm back on this focus because I want to. So like I know where to go and the information. And right now I feel like while I'm on this high of this hyper focus of doing it, I just need to make the appointment and go, and that'll make me feel a lot better. We have said, dude, the whole body focus repetitive is totally a thing that I do too. I got diagnosed in my late 30s. It's been really helpful knowing this, and I'm on Adderall and it works. So that is something good to know, right? That I'm not alone here. I know that I'm not alone. I know that I'm not. But getting that focus in there. And yeah, I talked to my doctor about Adderall or the other things, and it works. He was just like, I don't know if that's right for you because again, you're a bit older now. And heart health is something. So I don't know. It's one guy's thing. Maybe I'll talk to a specialist and they'll say something different. Spooky Planner, I get all of these things diagnosed. I got all of these diagnosed in my 40s. It's a trip for sure. Yeah, it's definitely one of those things. You're like, I went my entire life like this, and like no one else told me. Like I'm figuring this out myself now. Like why is that? I don't know. Donna, I have ADHD and autism, but I found out I can't take a stimulant because it caused me to develop I can't speak it. Tardive dyskinesia. Not sure what that is. Definitely let me know what that is. I've been interested to learn about that. Diagnosed at 46. So a lot of these in here. So y'all are making me feel a bit better about it. Got diagnosed as an adult at 32. It was such a relief. 44 and still dealing with ADHD. That was from Bella Stella. I call my dog, I don't mean this in a bad way, Stella is my other dog, and I call her Stella Bella. I just like your name. That's what I was gonna point out. I'm not relating you to my dog. Just to be clear. Um, so yeah, so I'm just kind of going through a lot of these. Well, Boutrin and caffeine is pretty much my magic elixir. Someone who else manages their ADHD. I don't know what Wellbutrin is. Let me know. Caffeine definitely is on there. My daily iced coffee is very important. I think the most important thing a diagnosis can provide is healing from the trauma of life being told, if only you were more organized or you're smart. But you know what? You are very right there. I think so often that is what gets said, like, "You're lazy, you're just not motivated, oh, you're just not interested in that topic." It's like, "No, you're right, I'm not interested in that topic," and my brain is literally like, "Do anything else but that." Until your deadline comes, and then suddenly you get the excitement of like, "I have to do this thing because it's due," and then you're like, "But this is really exciting because I have to try to accomplish this task in 24 hours before it's due, or a few hours when it came to homework and papers, and still not doing those types of things." Yeah, it's a lot of things inside of there that you're going with. Um, you were saying you should go to an actual psychiatrist for it rather than your primary care doctor. That's exactly what I want to do now. I think that was my big deal of like going to a primary care and mentioning it to him, and him kind of being like, "Yeah, but you're, a bit old, maybe for medicine. What else are you doing?" And I told him, and I think that's where I came to. So I completely agree. Well, Wellbutrin is a medication. Thank you. I'm not familiar. I think Adderall is like the one that people talk about a lot. So you're just like, okay, like, sure, if you say so. Someone said my therapist said bullet journaling is actually really helpful for ADHD and generalized anxiety disorder. I think that you're exactly right. I think a lot of people will say that writing things down, having that system and doing that is really helpful. And I agree, without actually ever talking to someone and literally coming to those conclusions on my own and saying, okay, after 7 years of never sticking to anything for longer than a month or two, like, why is this the thing? And I think all of those topics that we talked about, all of those main points point to why it's really important and actually really, really good. Going through some more chats. I got my diagnosis 2 years ago when I was 30. Tried meds, didn't help in a long time. Still struggling with managing and wondering if it ever ends. That's one of those things where I feel like we talk about that a lot. Is like, even if I did go through that, maybe it was medicine or therapies or whatever. Like, does it ever kind of figure itself out? And I relate this a lot to like the me biting my fingernails, because it is something that was on my mind. People will say like the comments don't bother me or I don't think about them, but that is one that they bother me. But again, it's not because it's like a hateful thing. I think a lot of it is just said from a standpoint of like, I noticed it, or it was kind of what it is. Take care of yourself, stop biting your nails, kind of those type of things. Again, things I've heard my entire life from family and friends growing up. Oh, well, just stop biting your nails. I don't even think about it when I do it. It is something that just happens. And like right now, just to give you a little example, my thumbnail, for instance, I've been very focused on not biting my fingernails for this past week. I've been trying really hard. Right on the edges of my thumbs right now, I can feel like the nail growing. And I've only been thinking about that this entire week. Every time I touch it, right? I'm like, just bite it off. Just get rid of it, right? And it's taking a lot for me to not do that. And I think for some people you don't necessarily understand it, because I think because if you're not struggling with those type of things, it's easy for you to be like, just don't bite your nails. But like, I can only think about this, or again, I'm doing work or whatever, and it's just like a easy thing to do. I'm focusing on whatever, and it just happens. Again, when you've been doing something, I can't even do the math on that since I was 7 years old, just naturally, just all the time, it's just happening, never really knowing why you're doing it. It's not super easy, and it's not an excuse. And again, I don't mean any like hate towards those people, or it's not like an excuse of why. It's just something that happens. But I think about it every time I read it, and I'm just like, yeah, man, like, stop doing that. Like, you're part of your hobby job is a top down view of you using pens and in your notebook, and people are seeing your nails. I think about it again, you want to like I internalize and think about it. If you notice on reels or some other videos, sometimes I'll hold a pen a weird way or like in the palm of my hand so that my fingernails are down so people don't see them. Like because I don't want people to be grossed out by them. I don't want people to I don't want that to be the focus of what they're paying attention to, or I don't want them to stop watching my video if it's good potential content because they're like grossed out because I've bitten my nails down past the nubs, like that. I don't want that for that. So I think about that a lot where I'm just like, I wish that I could just stop. And I think that's why I'm starting to go down this route as well. I know there's like cognitive, like behavioral coaches that exist. Again, this is all my research recently. I know there are the therapies that talk through it and kind of bring it down a little bit on it. Um, there's a lot of different stuff out there that I think could potentially be helpful, even if it's not the medicine route. Like maybe it's not the best thing for me, and I'm okay with that. The tools that I've put into place for myself, I think might just be it for me, right? Bullet journaling is helpful for work and for task management and remembering things that I have to get done. I've talked about the Ugmont. They have their analog system, which is different than bullet journaling, but somewhat similar. It's in front of my face. All the things that I need to do for personal and social media are here. Again, like keeping up on stuff. I haven't updated my card since December 2nd. It's the 19th. But also, I just haven't been focused on a lot of social media stuff recently. And I'll be honest with you, I think one of the reasons that I really enjoy lives so much is that I don't have anything to really do after. I can talk and I can present and we can have conversations here, and I don't have to edit anything afterwards. I don't have to put the extra stress of like editing the video, getting it out quickly, only focusing on that and doing something else. We can have these conversations, and I really enjoy them too. It's something that's really, really fun. Just going through some more of the chats real quick. I don't think dealing with it ever goes away. I was diagnosed as a kid some 20 years ago, and it's still a struggle, but some days are better than others. Well, that's good to know. Coping mechanisms like nail biting isn't something that you can just quit. The only suggestion I have is to find a replacement coping mechanism. So, Michelle, I've actually thought about that. Recently I thought, what if I just start like chewing on toothpicks? And then I read about how like that can be something that you're doing. However, then there's all of like these things about wood consumption, like, like splinters in your mouth. I'm sure they're like very fringe things, right? But like, I think about that sometimes if that is the way that I would want to go with it. I've tried the rubber band on the wrist and slapping myself with it, like the negative thing. I thought about buying that little like wrist buzzer. It shocks you when you do a behavior you don't want. I've literally thought I would be electrocuted. I would look like the guy from Home Alone after he touches he gets electrocuted. Like that's just what I would look like all the time because like that's how much it's happening. So it's just very funny. Firesaw, I used to bite my nails, still do it unawares of coping dopamine sometimes, but I was able to minimize it by wearing nail polish and keeping them nice um without pricey hooks. Lifelong nail biter myself, becoming obsessed with nail polish and nail care has broken the habit for me. I was always a big insecurity. So I don't mean to genderize this, but I have to because I've thought about that too. Where I thought, well, what if I just paint my fingernails and I won't do it? So one time I let my girls do that, just clear nail polish. And I'll be honest with you, I was like, oh, um, I don't want to bite my nails because it has fingernail polish on it. You know what I did instead? I focused on picking off because I got like this wonderful like excitement around the challenge of then picking off the nail polish on there instead, and then biting my fingernail afterwards. So I've tried different things like that. I think that it maybe that's a idea of it. So that'll be something. Yeah, Fire Soul. I pick off the nail polish now out loud. The bitter nail polish, maybe raindrops. I've heard about that as well as an option. I'm nervous about like what if I'm like eating something and I'm like, oh, this is good, and then I'm like getting a bitter taste, whatever. I don't know. Like I would just peel it off probably. Oh, someone wrote, I use that nail polish and then I can peel it off instead of biting my nails. Alternative, wearing rings. It shifts the attention from your nails. You could go to a nail salon. They extend your nails, bite proof. Also for a man. Oh, I've never thought about that. Like getting like fake nails put on. I don't know about that. I think everyone would be like, "What is your problem?" I mean, I've thought about like, well, what if I paid to get them taken care of and then I wouldn't do it? But I know me. I just know that it would go back. So, all right, friends. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap things up. Hopefully the chat about like why bullet journaling is there. I really, really appreciate the conversations in the chat. I know that I say that all the time. If you are a rewatch crew member, you weren't able to catch it live, which happens too. I always love to hear from you in the chat afterwards too, or in the comments, I think is where those go, not the chat. Definitely let me know kind of what you've done. And especially if you are someone who has struggled with it or are struggling with it, let me know your coping mechanisms and the techniques and things. That's why I've been doing this research, because I think I'm like, Mark, well, what if you don't go and talk to somebody? Like, um, is there something that you can do yourself that will help you out? But then I think a lot about like, will I actually do it without having the person to hold me accountable? It's like similar with the workout. Like I work with the personal trainer because I need them to hold me accountable to do the thing, in almost in a way they don't guilt me. They're very kind to me. But like if I don't do it because I'm not currently interested, they'll just help motivate me into doing that. And that's kind of what I'm thinking is why it might be a thing for me. Wearable fidgets might work. Okay. I don't know what a wearable fidget is, but let me know. I would love to figure that out. They have male nails at the nail salon. No one will notice. Lydia, I might have to take you up on that. Like, that seems like a good idea, but also seems like a really bad idea, because then I feel like, am I just going to focus on like popping them off? I don't know. Rings that spin. Oh, I don't know. All right. I'm going to look into it. Thank you all. These are fantastic topics and things to look into. And let me know again, follow through both in the chat and definitely in the comments, and let me know if there's things or techniques you put into place. I will take free therapy advice, especially if you have been and you go to somebody and they're like, here's what they told me to do. Maybe I'll just completely avoid talking to someone myself. No, I think that I'm going to go down it. I'm gonna start doing it right now, doing some research and figuring out. Thank you all. And again, if you're somebody who has been struggling through or trying to figure stuff out, I have a lot of content on my channel around bullet journaling. I talk a lot about it because it is helpful and it's fun, and I get a lot out of it, especially in a professional setting. I find it to be a lot of fun, and I think that it is definitely something that can be helpful. So if you haven't tried something else yet. So thank you so much. And I'll talk to you all later. Have a good rest of your day. See ya.